to talk about what the tutor want to do in the system. Admin want to do something, customer want to do something, employee want to do something. This is the tutor story. And normally the tutor story will be written at the following template. As a type tutor, I want some goal so that some reason. Type tutor, I want some goal so that some reason. There will be three parts in the tutor story statement. Type tutor, the goal, and the reason. Why do we need to use the tutor story? The tutor story will be used to written on the card or the sticky note, and it will be stored in the shoebox and arranged on the walls or the table to facilitate planning and discussion. They strongly shift the focus from writing about the future to discuss about them. It means that it's not so important whatever the text is written. More important is that the discussion about it is more important. You write some text about something. It is important, but it is not important that what we will discuss about it. We need to make more discussion, because we will know that when we write something, maybe that we cannot express a lot of things. We need to take time to discuss about them between the team member, to discuss about them. And this is an example about an epic user story. An example about epic user story. Let's see. One of the benefit of the Agile user story is that they can be written at different level of detail. It may be the low level, medium level, or the high level of detail, so that we can write a data story to cover a large amount of functionality. It means that you can combine many features, many functionality of the system into one user story. And if you combine a large amount, many functionality, many features together, we set it at this is they are the epic. And this is an epic Agile user story example from the desktop backup product. Okay, you develop software to back up the data in the computer, and you write an epic Agile user story to represent about it.
Cái hát đây nó đi chập chờn này.
Được không? Anh thấy
Em đóng thử nó không nhận đấy.
Lúc nhận được lúc sau mất em phải gì nổi được. Vâng, anh cảm nhận thêm giấy. Buổi hôm nay thì chưa cần, buổi sau được anh. Buổi nay thì chưa cần được TV.
Bây giờ thầy đang dạy để có dành cho anh mấy phút được không?
Dạ.
Thầy thử làm cho anh cái xem cho nó bị nhân thế nào vậy.
Vâng. Dạ vâng. Okay, you should wait me a minute. thì Hiếu có thể nhìn hai cái tivi nhá, nếu mà xem tín hiệu nó có ổn định nhá, đỡ phải nhìn máy tính. Dùng thì cứ được một lúc thì nó lại mất, để họ thay giấy luôn. Okay, now we back to the lesson. Continue with the lesson.
Cái máy của thầy là máy gì đấy? HP đúng không?
Là Asus.
Asus à?
Vâng.
Anh nắm được cái máy.
Vâng. There is a little bit trouble with the equipment. Now we're back to the lesson. Back to the example of the epic user story. Epic user story. An example of the epic user story is at the user, I can back up my entire hard drive. So you see in this case, if I try add a user, I can back up my entire hard drive. It is 2.0, because we know that there are many types user to use the computer. It may be a standard user, an amateur user, or a professional user, and each of type user may have a different requirement to back up the driver. You want to back up driver C or driver D, the data driver or the system driver. You want to back up all of the document or only the image, only the music, something like that. So if you just write the user story in this case, it is not enough. It is too general. You need to add more detail to the user story. This is an example. This is detail of a user story epic, because an epic is generally too large for an agile team to complete in one iteration. So it should be split into many smaller user story before it is worked on. And the epic above could be split into the dozen or many or maybe 100. Two of them. Let's see the text in bold, the bold text. This is an example. Add a power user, I can specify the file or the folder to backup based on the file size, the day created, and the day modified. This is the power user. You know that this is the professional user. Professional computer user. But as a normal user, I just want to indicate the folder, not the backup. I just want to focus on folder A or folder B. I want to not to backup, and the system will back up all of my hard drive except and ignore the folder I already declared. Some of the folder it is unnecessary, so we don't need to backup. This is the requirement from the standard user, but power user requirement will be different with the standard user. Okay. However, you see, it's quite okay, but it's still not enough. We need to add more and more detail in the user story epic. The next one, we can add the detail by two ways. The first one, we split a user story into multiple and smaller user story, or we can add the condition of satisfaction. We can add the condition of satisfaction two way. Okay? Make it smaller or add condition of satisfaction. And the condition of satisfaction is simply a high level acceptance test that will be true after the agile user story is complete. Let's see an example. Now I have the tourism application. So as a marketing manager, I want to select a holiday season to be used when reviewing the performance of the previous advertising campaign. We know that if we do in tourism, we need to do some advertising campaign, and we want to know the performance, the effectiveness of the advertising campaign. So we want to review it so that the marketing manager can identify which one is profit, which one is effective, and which one is not effective. And the detail could be added to the user story example by adding the following condition of satisfaction. Some example you can add the condition of satisfaction. The first one, we must make sure it works with the major retail holiday. Christmas Day, Easter Day, New Year Day. This is the first condition. The second condition, it must support the holiday that span for 2 calendar years. 2 calendar years. That's it. 2021 and 2022. The holiday will span from 2021 to 2022. It is the holiday. And at the manager, he wants to set the holiday season from one holiday to the next holiday, so that from Black Friday to the Christmas Day. And one more requirement, one more condition, the holiday season can be set to be a number of days prior to the holiday. To be a number of days prior to the holiday. So this is one way you can add more and more detail to your user story. The next question is, so who will write the user story? Who will write the user story? Anyone? Normally, the Scrum Master will responsible for writing the user story, but anyone in the team can write the user story. Anyone? The responsibility of the product owner is to make sure that the product backlog of Agile user story will exist, but that doesn't mean that the product owner is the one who write them. And over the course of the good Agile project, what you should expect is to have a user story example written by each team member. And remember, note that who write the user story is far less important than who is involved in the discussion about it. The person who is responsible to write the user story, not so important as the person who involved to discuss, to conduct the thing, to complete it. You see, they are more important. To summarize, anyone in the team can write the user story, and it is better that who do which task he understand about this task, and he or she should write the user story. For example, student A, or member A do about user, do everything about user, so he should write the user story about user. Member B do everything about customer, so he should write the user story about customer. The next question is, the first is who. The next question is when. When user story should be written. The user story should be written throughout the Agile project. And usually, a story writing workshop is held near the start of the Agile project, and everyone on the team will participate with the goal of creating the product backlog that fully describe the functionality to be added over the course of the project, or from a 3 to 6 month release cycle within it. And some of the Agile user story will some of the Agile user story will be undoubtedly be epic. And in this case, the epic will decompose. We should decompose or split the epic to be smaller story that fit more readily into the single iteration. We decompose and we split the epic into smaller story. And additionally, new story can be written or added to the product backlog at any time and anyone. It is very important. We talk about the when. Okay? Normally, we create the product log at the start of the Agile project. Okay, we create the product backlog at first, because if we do not create the product backlog, we have no item to include in the sprint backlog, and in the sprint we do not know what to do. So we need to prepare product backlog first, and then we select some of them, we put in different sprint backlog and divide smaller at the individual and separate tasks. After that, if you have something change, you can add the new item to the product backlog at any time, and anyone can add the item to the product backlog. Anyone can add the item to product backlog. So another thing we have learned, it will lead to a very interesting question. So whether the user story will replay a requirement document or not. User story replay a requirement document or not. The Agile Scrum project will use a product backlog with a prioritize list of the functionality to be developed in a product or the service, and the user story have a immerse at the best and the most popular form of the product backlog item. So why a product backlog can be taught as a replacement for requirement document of a traditional project is the important to remember that the written part of an Agile user story, for example, add a user, I want to do something, it is incomplete until the discussion about the story happen. So to summarize, it is often best to think of the written part as the pointer to the real requirement. The user story, okay, user story will be set at the pointer to the real requirement. So to answer the question, do the user story can replay for the requirement document or not? The answer is not really. User story and requirement document, they should be independent document. Okay? User story important, requirement document also important, and they should be independent. And user story cannot replace 100% for requirement. Even though you already create a very detailed and clear list of user story, you also need to create a separate and clear requirement document also. Okay? User story, requirement document, they are related but independent. The last tip, the last hint, the last guide for you to write the user story is that the user story could point to the diagram depicting a workflow, a specific showing how to perform a calculation or any other artifact that the product owner or the team design. So you can group your user story into the related category and number. We set the number for it from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And different user story, we group, we put them into different category. Set all of the user story for admin, you will set for the category admin. All of the user story related to the customer, you put into the category customer. Or you can group or sort them based on the function. Set authentication. Every user story related to authentication, you put into the category authentication. For example, log in, log out, or authorization. It means that everything related to the set role admin, role customer, role employee, role manager. If you follow another tip, follow another guide about user story, it will make the documentation become easier and ensure that all the requirement will be test and deliver. Yeah. This is about the user story. Do you have any question about the user story? I will give you more example about the user story, so you can understand about user story clearer. Yeah, let's just take some example from the internet. So that the first one is here, an example. Just remember the template as a role. I want the role so that I got the benefit. And after you follow this template, you also need to add some acceptance criteria. And the acceptance criteria is mean the condition of satisfaction. If we have a more condition to, if we have a more criteria that we can accept, it means that the satisfaction level of the customer or the user will be higher. Add an account manager. For example, add an account manager. I want a sales report of my account to be sent to my inbox daily so that I can monitor the sales progress of my customer portfolio. With this requirement, this data story, there will be 3 acceptance criteria. The report will be sent daily to my inbox. The report will contain the following sales details that name of the salesman, the sales age, sales email, sales address, sales mobile phone, and the report should be export to the CSV format. CSV, it looks like the Excel format. We normally use CSV to store the customer information, the contact information. Another example here, this is the hint to write the user story. To write the user story, you just need to remember 4 steps. The first one, define the end user. The second one, specify what they want. Now, define the end user, it means that you define this user story will belong to which type user, admin, customer, employee, manager, or something. The second one, we specify what they want. They want to log in, they want to do shopping, you want to add the pay the money, do online payment, or you want to check attendance or something like that. List everything they want from the system and describe the benefit. If they can do this one, what they get. Finally, this one is optional. Number 4 is optional, but it is very important. Add some acceptance criteria. And more criteria we can accept, more and higher level of satisfaction. Okay? More criteria will accept higher level of satisfaction. Okay, this is about the user story. Now let's continue with the Scrum Product Log. Scrum Product Log. Scrum Product Log is had a close relationship to user story. So what is the product log? It must be the list contain all of the feature of the system, and all of these features already set the priority. So this is a prioritized feature list that contain the short description of all of the functionality design in the product. Instead of you list one by one feature, and then, but when we list every feature in the list, look like this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not talk about the order. Which one is more important than the other? It will be not so clearly. So in this case, it is not necessary to start the project with a lengthy upfront effort to document all of the requirement. Instead of we form a Scrum team, and then the product owner will begin writing down everything they can think up for the Agile backlog prioritization. Agile backlog prioritization. And this Agile backlog is almost on the way, more than enough for the first swing, And the Scrum backlog is then allowed to grow and train. So we will learn more about the product and its customer. We create the product backlog first, and then we can update, we can train to adapt with the requirement on the demand from the customer. Okay. What are the typical product backlog? Yeah. The feature. The first one is the feature, and the feature is the collection of user story. This is the reason why the product backlog and the user story had a close relationship, because in some case product backlog is just the list of user story, and user story will be used to represent for the feature of the system. Next one is the bug. The most popular product backlog is the feature, certainly, because when we develop product, we need to care about the feature, what they can do, what it can do. And the second is the bug. The bug, it means the error. Actually, there is no clear difference between the bug and the new feature. No clear difference between the bug and the new feature. So that at first, certainly, before you develop the system, develop the product, there is no bug. But the bug or the error only happen when you just writing the code, the bug happen. And if you cannot fix the bug in this sprint, you need to move the bug into the next sprint. And the next time of the product backlog is the technical work. For example, due to the requirement of the project, you need to upgrade all of the development workstation to Windows 7. Or you might want to update all of the JDK, Java development kit, for all of the team member laptop to JDK 17, the latest version, because the current version is 2.0, set the version 8 is 2.0, and we need to update it to JDK 17. And we have some knowledge acquisition. We need to do some research about the JavaScript library and making the selection. What is the most suitable choice for the library that we can use in this project? This is we do the research. We know that if we do one one web application, and this is the big project, if we just writing the code in the traditional way, it is not suitable. It is too slow. And if we want to keep it faster and more effective, we need to use the framework. We need to use the library. And we should select the most suitable library to use. So how does the Scrum backlog will work? The product owner will show up at the sprint planning meeting with the prioritized Agile backlog and describe the top item to the team. Okay. So the list, and then we will just focus on the top item. The next step, the team member will determine which item they can complete during the coming sprint, and the team then move the item from the backlog to the sprint backlog. So to doing so, they expand the Scrum backlog item into one or more sprint backlog tasks, so that they can effectively share the work during the sprint. We have 4 main steps to create the backlog. Product owner, so the top item, team determine which item they can complete, the team move the item to from the product log to the swing back log. We need to select. Yeah. Because we know that the product log is the bigger one, the total, the collection. You take out, you move some item from product log, you move to the swing back log. Yeah. And finally, this is how the Scrum product log is created, and it will be shown and complete in different string. Finally, but very important, every product backlog item require the judgment or the assessment. The team, we start at the top of the prioritized Scrum backlog, and we need to draw the line after the lowest of the higher priority item, so that they feel that they can complete in the sprint. Because if they think that it is too difficult to complete, we should ignore. However, in practical, this is the theoretical. This is the theoretical, and in the practical, it is not unusual to see the team to select. For example, just select the top 5, and then 2 items from the lower on the list will be associated with the initial 5. This is the way we create product log, and we select the suitable item in the product log to do. You can get some example of the product log from this website. Yeah, you can get the website from the Google Classroom, and the link is already available in the slide. For example, a lot very long, okay, a lot of example, and you can based on this example, you write your own user story. For example, you develop the feature for the homepage, so that add a sign visitor. I want to be able to get back to the homepage quickly and easily, so I do not get lost navigating. And so the site work like every other site in the world. All about the rating. As a site admin, I can see the result for each trainer, and Eric for the class for all of the trainer, so I can identify any outlier or possible problem. Another set the membership at the company. I can join the Scrum Alliance by paying a corporate membership fee, so that I can show the company support of the Scrum, and this will include uploading item related to corporate membership. Membership. This is an example. You can read more in this website to understand more about how can we write user story and put all of them in the product log. And the last content for the lesson today, we will study about UCD and Agile. UCD and Agile. UCD stands for User-Centered Design. We use the user-centered design in an Agile Scrum environment. User-centered design in an Agile Scrum environment. Agile, SDLC methodology have many advantages. So what make it more attractive? The first one, with the Agile, we may have the quicker or the faster return on investment. You invest on something, you want to return the benefit as soon as possible, so that you have a more effort in development. The second one, earlier software release. If you apply Agile Scrum, you need to deliver the software or the part of the software. If it not some feature in the software, it can work to deliver to the customer after 2 to 4 weeks. Agile also good at generating the momentum, good at avoiding the feature bloat, and it will help to encourage the contribution from different perspective. Encourage contribution from different perspective. So what is the problem? Agile have many advantages. So is there any problem of Agile? It still have a lot of problem because it does not have the business know what it want. Does not have the business know what it want. The problem number one, when we follow the Agile, there is unclear role for the design. Unclear role for the design. It means that not all of the developer have the design skill. Not all of the developers have a design skill, and many developers have had the past experience with the designer who do not know what they are doing. This is the first problem. We had the developer, but we have no role, no clear role for designer. So normally developer will also responsible for the designer. But developer only good at coding. They have not enough skill for design. So it leads to that the problem number one, no unclear role for the design. Second problem, we do not define the requirement gathering process. The Agile will accommodate the design activity from the perspective of a developer. So if we assume the requirement fall from the sky, or at least from the business or the customer, who we assume to be all knowing. So the problem in this case, there will be too often the good part of the waterfall process. It could be too often will become the proverbial because the baby throw out with the documentation but water. An example is that the research and forming a high level blueprint for the overall design. The third problem it is the pressure to cut the corner. We have a more pressure when we work with Agile because the Scrum put the pressure on the experienced design team to fit the development machine in time enough to them to implement their vision. We have a more pressure to complete and finish the product as soon as possible. But the user-centric principle will suggest you should test the idea with the end user before you commit them with coding. The next problem, we have the temptation to code it that's good enough. Agile will condone releasing whatever we have so long as it works. So sometimes that means doing what we can get away with, not what ultimately best for the user. So we rework to get left in the favor of exciting the new stuff, and the end of the product may be full of features that do not satisfy the requirement from the customer. A lot of feature, it is not always good because the most important is whether the feature can satisfy the requirement of the customer or not. You put too many features to your system, but a lot of feature not related to the requirement or the demand from the customer, so they are useless, they have no meaning. This is the typical Agile process. We go from requirement, then design code, test and do the validation, and finally we release the product. In the typical Agile process, in this way, we have two problems. The first problem happens when we do the requirement. When we do the requirement, we have the temptation to prioritize the new feature over iterating the previous iteration problem. Another problem will happen in the product release because we have a temptation to release before it right. The problem number 5 is the not enough or insufficient risk-free conceptual exploration time. The iteration 0 can be used for planning. However, the level of rigor applied to exploration may be not enough. So in this case, the Agile does not dedicate the time to concept activity so that sketching different solutions at a high level and validating them in the road with the tutor before digging into the detail design or coding. We have a not enough risk-free conceptual to for us to make the exploration. And the last one, the last problem, we can destroy or we can damage the branch of the customer. The reason is that we just repeat a lot of time. If you affect the brand and the brand will damage, it will take far longer to mend than it's to make. Some software creator or some software developer, we could just have the good enough level, not a professional level. They maybe fail to do some innovation through the conceptual exploration. So they will put the company revenue at risk. Maybe they cannot bring the benefit to the company, but they will put the company revenue to become risk. They can reduce the revenue of the company. So the brand of the company may be damaged or destroyed. So you see that after we study, we know that there are still a lot of main problem for Agile, six main problem. So why it's still due more popular nowadays? Because the Agile, it is just good for refining, not for defining. Refine, not for define. To make it better, not to do bad at first. So developing the existing product to the next level, it means that you have the base upon which to be improved in the future, and your requirement have been properly informed with the due the research, comparative analysis, and business objective. A lot of reason why we still need to use Agile instead of the other software development lifecycle. So how about Gcd, user-centered design? It will require the iteration. Similar to Agile, we got iteration on the loop, design, test with tutor, refine, test with tutor, refine, test with tutor, design. Just we do a lot of action, repeat many times until we know that is it correct or is it right. And Agile and UCD can work brilliantly together. The reason is that both of them had the same iteration. Agile, we need to iterate from requirement gathering, software design, software coding, software testing. And UCD is the same. Design, test, refine, test. So we can combine them together. So now we have the idea that we can combine the best of Agile and the best of UCD together. This is a typical UCD process. We have 4 main process in UCD, from research, concept, design, and build. Research, concept, design, build. For the research, we do not make the repetition. However, for concept, design, and build, we have the repetition between the business and the customer. Repeat for many times. This is a typical UCD process. This figure represents for the layer or the element of user experience. GCD will cover for this one. File layer from surface, skeleton, the structure, the scope, and the strategy. Why the Azure just cover for the top surface, skeleton, structure, scope, but the strategy Azure will not cover for this. They are the 5 elements of user experience. So now let's talk about the case we use the GCD to form a strategy. That some research already cover that the user context, the demand, the goal, and the attitude already determine the user requirement. So we know that we have an appreciation of what else already exists in the term product, feature, and technology. And a clear articulation of the business problem, objective, success measure, and constraint will be due GCD to form the best strategy to develop the software project. Now, you see, GCD have a lot of advantages. Agile also have a lot of advantages, and they get the similarity in iteration. So the best way is we combine them together. Get the best of Agile combined with the best of GCD. So we get the best strategy. Yeah. On the right side, require design code, test and validate, code list. Okay. This is the typical Agile process we know already. Now, if we apply Agile with GCD before we make the iteration for require design code, test, validate, and code list, we need to do 2 more steps before it. You see, we do research and concept in GCD. Research, no repeat, but we make the repeat for the concept. We make the repeat for the concept. Okay, so with this diagram, we understand how can we combine GCD and Agile together. Now we move to the conclusion that there is no magic bullet for the software development. We can go to the final conclusion that actually in software development we have no magic bullet. If it is no technique, no development life cycle will ensure that your software project always success. You can apply Agile Scrum, you can apply GCD because they have many positive features. And it is better to combine them together because Agile Scrum and GCD, they can work well together. Because we can take strength of Agile Scrum and also the strength of the GCD, we combine them together. So they will fit together because they have the similarity in iteration. And there are many other approaches to the software development. There are other. Remember that we still have the other technique, the other approach, the other software development life cycle to develop the software project, not only Agile Scrum, and depend on different type of project, depend on the scope, depend on the length, and depend on the cost of the project. You should select one of the suitable software development method. Okay, and that's it on for the lesson today. Do you have any question? No. Agile Scrum on only. Yeah. Yeah. It is better to use both of Agile and GCD together. If you use Agile, it is this one. But if you use Azure and Gcd together, it could be this one. It is better to apply Azure and Gcd. However, in this code, the most important is you use Azure with Scrum. Scrum, it is the most important. You use Azure Scrum. Gcd, not important. Optional. You can apply Gcd to make it more effective because it has some positive feature. However, it is optional. Okay, the most important is here. Agile Scrum is compulsory and Gcd is optional. With this code, only use Agile Scrum. Only use Agile Scrum. No waterfall, no V model, no other approach. For another course, for example, in your final project, it means the graduation project, you can use waterfall or the other approach. But in this course, for this subject, you must use Agile Scrum. And if for any group, if you can apply Gcd along with Agile Scrum, you will get higher appreciation and maybe you get higher grade. Okay, but generally Agile Scrum it is enough for this project. Any other question? Okay, so for the remaining time, I will check attendance after 10 minutes. For the remaining time, you can read the slide for more detail. If you have something want to ask me, you can ask me. And you should, my recommendation is you should take time to read overview about some next slide, so you can get easier to understand when we go to the class. Click on the material in Google Classroom. The next week, we will learn about how to fail with Azure. Yeah. How to fail with Azure, it means that we will learn about the case that we will make the Azure fail. Azure is very popular. If you use Azure, you have a higher chance to develop a successful software project. However, it not ensure 100% when you apply Azure, your project will be successful. There will be some case you will fail. This is the content of the next lesson. And we will talk about the mobile first. Why we need to spend and concentrate for the mobile. With this code, it is not important to develop the version for mobile. Only develop the web application. If you have the mobile, it is very good. You have a higher appreciation. You have a higher rate, but web is enough. Only develop the version for web, not necessary to develop the version for mobile in this code. Okay, I will check attendance at 3:55 after 10 more minutes. Take the time to reread the slide and take an overview. Look at the new slide in next week.